CEO, Adonis. He is sweet. But let's be honest, he is not exactly leadership material. Some people are just meant to follow orders, you know. My girlfriend said while laughing with my company's CEO and biggest client at our most important networking event of the year. I stayed completely silent, pulled out my phone, and started recording everything she said for the next hour. What she did next made everyone in that room see her true nature for the first time. I am Adonis, 29, and I work as a software developer here in Austin. For the past 2 years, I have been with Chelsea, 27F, and I am starting to realize that what I thought was normal relationship teasing might have been something much darker. When we first started dating, Chelsea seemed confident and funny. She would make little jokes about my quirks, and I thought it was cute. Like when I would mess up cooking dinner, she would laugh and say, "Good thing you are better with code than cuisine." It felt playful. But somewhere along the way, the jokes stopped being private and started happening in front of other people. And they stopped being about little mistakes and started being about me as a person. At first, it was just with our friend group. We would be at dinner, and someone would mention a movie, and Chelsea would jump in with, "Oh, Adonis wouldn't get it. He only watches superhero movies and documentaries." I am trying to expand his horizons. Everyone would laugh, including me, because I figured she was just being honest about our differences. Then it escalated. At my birthday party last year, Chelsea told the story of how I had tried to plan a romantic weekend, but forgot to check if the hotel had Wi-Fi and spent the whole trip sulking because I couldn't work. She made it sound like I was some kind of antisocial workaholic who couldn't enjoy life. The thing is, none of that was true. I had planned that weekend specifically to disconnect, and I was happy about the no Wi-Fi situation. But by the time Chelsea finished telling her version, I was questioning my own memory of the trip. My best friend Brandon started pulling me aside after these incidents. "Dude, she treats you like shit in front of people," he would say. But I had to defend her. "She is just honest." I would tell him, "She is trying to help me improve." The pattern got worse over time. Chelsea would undermine me in front of my coworkers at company events. She would tell my family that I was lucky to have someone who keeps me grounded. She would flirt with other guys right in front of me, then mock me for being insecure when I looked uncomfortable. My sister Samantha was the most direct about it. "She is destroying your confidence, Adonis. You used to be funny and outgoing. Now you barely speak when she is around," but I didn't see it. I thought I was just becoming more mature, more thoughtful. I didn't realize I was becoming smaller. The worst part was that Chelsea never did this stuff when we were alone. In private, she was sweet, affectionate, supportive. She would tell me she loved me, that she was just trying to help me be my best self. When I would bring up something hurtful she had said in public, she had act confused. "It was just a joke, babe." Everyone was laughing. "You are being too sensitive. I am trying to help you be more confident. If I don't tell you these things, who will? Everyone else thinks it is funny. Maybe you need to lighten up." I started declining social invitations because I never knew when Chelsea would decide to make me the entertainment for the evening. My confidence at work started slipping because I was constantly second-guessing myself. But last Friday night, everything changed. My company was hosting our biggest client appreciation event of the year. We had landed this major contract with a tech startup that could lead to huge growth for our firm. The CEO, clients, and all the senior developers were there. I had been working on this project for months, and my boss had hinted that a promotion to senior developer might be in the works if the client relationship continued going well. Chelsea insisted on coming to the event, even though I had suggested maybe it would be boring for her. She said she wanted to support my career and meet the people I work with. I should have known better at it. Holy shit, this is getting a lot of responses. To answer some questions, yes, I recorded everything on my phone. And yes, she said way worse things than what I have posted so far. Edit 2. Some of you are asking about the recording. I started doing it because I was questioning my own memory of events. Chelsea would say something awful, and later claim she never said that or that I was being dramatic. The recording was for my own sanity. Update 1: Wi-Fi was down at my apartment complex for 2 days, which honestly gave me time to process what happened without getting distracted by social media. Thanks for all the support on my original post. Reading your comments helped me realize how not normal this situation was. So the client event started off well. I was actually feeling confident for once, talking with colleagues about the project I had been leading. My boss introduced me to our CEO and mentioned the promotion possibility. I was having genuine conversations with people I respected professionally. Then Chelsea arrived. She looked great, she always does. Chelsea knows how to make an entrance, but within 10 minutes of her arrival, I felt that familiar knot in my stomach that meant she was about to start her routine. It began with the CEO introduction. My boss was telling him about my contributions to the project when Chelsea appeared at my side. "Adonis is so lucky you gave him this opportunity," she interrupted with a bright smile. "He is not naturally the most confident person, but he works really hard to overcome that." The CEO looked confused but smiled politely. I felt my face burning. Then we joined a group that included David Harrison, our biggest new client, and his wife Bonnie. David's been running a successful tech startup for 5 years, and his wife Bonnie had sold her own software company for millions before they met. They were exactly the kind of people I needed to make a good impression on. Chelsea immediately started what I now recognize as her systematic demolition routine. When David asked about my background, Chelsea jumped in before I could answer. "Adonis is brilliant with code, but you know how programmers are with people skills. I keep telling him he needs to think bigger picture, but baby steps. Right?" She said it with a laugh, like it was adorable. David and Bonnie exchanged a look I couldn't quite read. When Bonnie mentioned she had built her company from scratch, Chelsea's response made my blood cold. "That is amazing. I keep trying to get Adonis to be more entrepreneurial, but he is more of a steady paycheck kind of guy. Some people are natural risk takers. Others need security blankets." I watched Bonnie's expression change. This was a woman who had built and sold a tech company, and Chelsea was essentially calling her husband unambitious in front of her. But Chelsea wasn't done. Over the next hour, she systematically continued her assault on my reputation. When my project manager complimented my work on the latest software update, Chelsea immediately jumped in to tell him that I was lucky to have such patient colleagues who were willing to work with someone like me. Later, she found herself talking to a group of senior developers and casually mentioned that I had needed a lot of hand-holding when I first started coding, making it sound like I was some kind of incompetent trainee rather than someone who had been successfully contributing to projects for 3 years. The worst moment came when she was chatting with David, our biggest client, and described me as someone who means well but sometimes misses the bigger picture, essentially telling him that I lacked the strategic thinking skills necessary for serious business discussions. All with that same bright smile, like she was sharing cute stories about a pet. The worst part was watching my colleagues' faces. These were people who had worked with me for 3 years, who respected my skills and contributions. They were starting to look uncomfortable, like they were witnessing something they didn't want to see. Brandon showed up about an hour into the event. He immediately noticed the atmosphere and pulled me aside. "Dude, she is making you look like an idiot in front of your boss. Why aren't you saying anything?" I didn't have an answer. I was so used to the pattern that I had just accepted it. "She is just nervous," I told him. Big crowd. Trying to fit in. Brandon stared at me like I had lost my mind. "Adonis, she is systematically destroying your professional reputation while smiling. This isn't nerves." That is when I started recording. I pulled out my phone and started capturing audio of Chelsea's comments. Not for revenge. I honestly wasn't thinking that far ahead. I just wanted proof of what was happening because I had started questioning my own perception of reality. What I captured over the next 40 minutes was devastating. Edit. Several people are asking why I didn't just tell her to stop. 2 years of this conditioning made me believe that speaking up would make me look sensitive or unable to take a joke. I know how that sounds now. Edit 2. Brandon stayed close for the rest of the event and heard everything. He is the one who convinced me that what I recorded was actually psychological abuse, not just relationship humor. Update 2 had to take a few days off work to process everything that happened. But I am ready to tell you guys how this whole nightmare finally ended. What Chelsea did next was so catastrophically bad that it woke me up from 2 years of gaslighting. So I am recording Chelsea's comments, watching her systematically undermine me in front of my entire professional network. But she was just getting warmed up. Around 8 p.m., our group was talking about industry trends when Bonnie, David's wife, the one who had sold her tech company, mentioned some challenges she had faced as a female entrepreneur. It was actually a really interesting conversation about breaking into male-dominated fields. Chelsea, who had been quiet for maybe 5 minutes, suddenly perked up. "Oh, I totally understand that struggle," she said. I work in marketing, so I know how hard it is for women to be taken seriously in business. Bonnie nodded politely, but I could see she was trying to figure out how Chelsea's marketing job related to building a tech company from scratch. Then Chelsea made her fatal mistake. It must be nice, though, she continued with that same bright smile, having a successful husband to support your ventures. Some of us actually have to work for everything we get instead of having that safety net. The entire group went silent. Bonnie stared at Chelsea for a long moment, then said very calmly, "I am sorry, what did you just say?" Chelsea, apparently not reading the room, doubled down. "I just mean it is easier to take business risks when you have financial security from marriage. Not all of us have that luxury. Some of us are with guys who need encouragement just to ask for a promotion." She gestured toward me with that last comment, still smiling like she had made a clever joke. David's face went dark. My wife built and sold her company 3 years before we met. She was already a millionaire when I asked her out. The blood drained from Chelsea's face, but Bonnie wasn't done. "I started my company with $5,000 and a laptop in my studio apartment," Bonnie said, her voice getting colder. "I worked 80-hour weeks for 4 years, slept in my office half the time, and nearly had a nervous breakdown before my first major client came through. I sold that company for $2 million, and used the money to invest in other female entrepreneurs." The group was dead silent. Chelsea looked like she wanted to disappear, but Bonnie still wasn't finished. "So when you suggest that I had some kind of safety net, or that I didn't work for what I achieved, you are not just wrong, you are showing everyone here exactly who you are as a person." Chelsea tried to backtrack. "I didn't mean, I just thought. I am sorry, I misunderstood." "No," Bonnie said firmly. "You didn't misunderstand anything. You saw a successful woman and assumed she must have had help from a man. That says everything about how you view women, success, and relationships." Then Bonnie turned to me. "And the way you have been talking about Adonis all evening, that is not love. That is systematic emotional abuse. I have been listening to you tear down your partner for the past 2 hours, and frankly, it is disgusting." The entire party had gone quiet. Everyone was staring at our group. Chelsea's mask completely slipped. "Excuse me. You don't know anything about our relationship. Adonis and I love each other. I support him. I am just honest about his limitations." "Honest about his limitations?" Bonnie's voice carried across the room now. "You have called him unconfident, unambitious, socially awkward, and needy in front of his colleagues and boss. If that is love, I had hate to see what you do to people you dislike." That is when my CEO walked over. "Is everything all right here?" he asked, clearly concerned about the raised voices at his event. Chelsea, in full panic mode, tried to flip the script. "This woman is attacking me for no reason. I was just trying to make conversation, and she started insulting my relationship." My CEO looked around the group. David, Bonnie, Brandon, my project manager, 3 senior developers, all looking uncomfortable and frankly embarrassed for me. Bonnie spoke up clearly, "Sir, I was addressing some concerning comments about professional conduct and workplace relationships. This young woman has spent the evening publicly belittling her partner in front of his colleagues." My CEO's expression changed. He looked at me with something I had never seen before: pity. "Adonis, could I speak with you privately for a moment?" As we walked away, I heard Chelsea behind us. "This is ridiculous. Adonis, tell them we are fine. Tell them I support you." But I didn't turn around. Edit. Several people are asking what my CEO said during our private conversation. It was actually worse than I thought. He had been watching the pattern all evening and was concerned about my home situation affecting my work confidence. Final update: had to get a new phone after Chelsea threw mine against the wall during our breakup conversation, but honestly, the digital detox was probably good for me. Thanks to everyone who reached out. Your messages helped me realize how far down the rabbit hole I had gone. So my CEO pulled me aside, and what he said completely shattered the reality I had been living in for 2 years. "Adonis," he said quietly, "I have been watching what is happening here tonight, and I need to ask, is she always like this?" I started to give my usual response about Chelsea just being honest and trying to help me improve, but the words died in my throat. Looking at his concerned expression, I realized how insane that sounded. "Yes, sir," I said. "She is usually worse." He was quiet for a moment, then said something that hit me like a truck. "Son, What I witnessed tonight wasn't a girlfriend supporting her partner. That was systematic emotional abuse happening in public. The fact that you have normalized it enough to bring her to a professional event tells me this has been going on for a while. That is when it all clicked. 2 years of conditioning had made me think Chelsea's behavior was normal, even helpful. But seeing it reflected in my CEO's shocked expression and in the faces of colleagues I respected finally broke through the fog. When we returned to the group, Chelsea was in full damage control mode. She was trying to convince anyone who would listen that Boney had misunderstood her comments and that she was actually very supportive of women in business. Nobody was buying it. I walked up to Chelsea and said calmly, "We need to leave." Now, she immediately switched tactics. "Adonis, baby, I didn't mean anything bad. These people are just being sensitive." "You understand me better than anyone, Chelsea," I said, and my voice carried further than I intended. "You need to leave this event. You have embarrassed yourself and damaged relationships I have been building for years." Her face went white, then red. "How dare you take their side over mine? I am your girlfriend. I am supposed to come first." "You have been putting me last for 2 years," I said. "Tonight you just did it in front of the wrong people." She tried her usual manipulation tactics. The tears, the "you are being cruel," the "I was just trying to help you." But something had fundamentally shifted in me. I could see the strings now. Security ended up escorting her out because she refused to leave voluntarily. As they walked her toward the exit, she was screaming about how I was ungrateful and throwing away the best thing in my life. The irony was perfect after she left. Something amazing happened. My colleagues started approaching me with stories I had never heard. Apparently, they would all notice Chelsea's pattern but didn't know how to address it without overstepping boundaries. My project manager said he had been documenting concerns about my decreased confidence and participation in team meetings, not realizing the cause was coming from home. Boney and David were incredibly gracious. Boney pulled me aside and said, "What you just did took real courage. A lot of people never break free from that kind of manipulation." The next week was intense. Chelsea tried every tactic in the book to get me back. First came the love bombing phase, where she had called me crying about how much she missed me and insisting that we were perfect together, that what we had was special and irreplaceable. When that didn't work, she switched to gaslighting, telling me I was remembering things wrong and that she never actually said the hurtful things I had recorded. She would claim I was being dramatic and twisting her words to make her look bad. As her desperation grew, the threats started coming. She would tell me that I had never found anyone who could love me the way she did, that I was making the biggest mistake of my life, and that I would regret this decision forever. When intimidation failed to bring me back, she pivoted to playing the victim, sobbing about how I was abandoning her when she needed me most, how cruel I was being after everything we had shared, and how she couldn't believe I was throwing away our relationship over one misunderstanding. But I had the recordings. Every time she tried to rewrite history, I could play back exactly what she had said. It was like having a vaccine against her manipulation. The breakup conversation was brutal. When Chelsea realized her usual tactics weren't working, her mask came completely off. "You are nothing without me," she screamed. "I made you interesting. I pushed you to be better. You are just a boring programmer who is going to die alone." "Maybe," I said. "But at least I will die with my dignity intact." That is when she threw my phone against the wall. The aftermath has been incredible, though. Without Chelsea's constant undermining, my confidence started returning almost immediately. I got the promotion to senior developer. Turns out my CEO was more impressed by how I handled the situation than concerned about the drama. Brandon and I rebuilt our friendship. Turns out, Chelsea had been systematically isolating me from people who might call out her behavior. Several friends admitted they had stopped inviting me to things because they couldn't stand watching how she treated me. My sister Samantha cried when I told her about the breakup. "I have been watching you disappear for 2 years, she said. "I thought I had lost my brother forever." The dating revelation has been huge too. I started seeing someone new last month. A teacher named Lisa who thinks my job is impressive instead of embarrassing. The difference is night and day. Lisa builds me up instead of tearing me down. She celebrates my wins instead of minimizing them. When Lisa heard this whole story, she said something that perfectly captured what I had been through. Someone who loves you doesn't keep a running list of your flaws to share with strangers. That is the difference. Real love doesn't come with constant criticism disguised as help. Chelsea tried reaching out again last week through mutual friends, claiming she had learned from her mistakes and wanted to work things out. But I am not interested in being anyone's rehabilitation project. The best part, I heard through the grapevine that Chelsea's been struggling to maintain relationships since our breakup. Turns out when you are used to having a punching bag for your insecurities, it is hard to adjust to people who will not tolerate that behavior. Thanks Reddit for helping me see clearly when I was too deep in the manipulation to recognize it myself. Sometimes it takes an outside perspective to realize you are not crazy. You are just being driven crazy. Edit, for everyone asking about the recordings. Yes, I kept them. Not for revenge, but because Chelsea's gaslighting was so effective that I needed proof of reality. Having evidence saved my sanity during the breakup. Edit 2. Several people have asked about therapy. I have been seeing a counselor who specializes in emotional abuse recovery. Highly recommend it for anyone coming out of similar situations. Learning to trust your own perceptions again takes time.